think that has worked. Hurrah. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Nathan McGill from the Amazing Study Buddy. And many of you may have seen if you joined us last time, he went through our websites and suggested some helpful tips and tools to ensure that we can start getting more students using them. And he's going to be doing the same this time. I'm going to mute myself and let you take the proverbial floor.
Excellent. Thank you, Hannah. Morning, everyone. Welcome back. I think I recognise certainly a few of the faces, which is lovely to see. So yeah, this week, what I'm planning to do as a follow-up is sort of effectively the stuff that I didn't get to cover in the first week, which is talking about some example websites. And I say that knowing specifically, actually on my screen, I can see 3 of you there that I'll be talking about your websites specifically. So let's do that dramatic thing of sharing my screens. And I'm hoping that will seamlessly work when I go through to something else. Right. How does that look? Can I get a nod from, Laura, actually, if you're, perfect, that's all working. And actually, thank you very much. Excellent. So, is your website working hard for you? The sequel in less than an hour. I'm hoping it'll be less than an hour. We're a couple of minutes late starting, but that's fine. I'm presuming that this is a punishment from Julia and team because I ran over by at least that the last time that I did it, and I take my punishment well. So,
not a punishment. I promise. I promise.
So what we're going to do in this session is I'm going to do a really quick recap of what we did last time. I'm also going to talk, sort of just touch again on that foray method as something that hopefully you'll be able to use and get use out of when it comes to looking and reviewing your own websites deliberately. And then the bulk of this session, though, is going to be spent walking through 4 or 5 websites that have been volunteered by brave members of the community for me to sort of walk through, sort of share some of my thoughts as I'm going through. And I'm going to caveat that right now that I don't know a lot about the businesses. I don't know the audiences in particular that you're going for, what the website's there to provide. So this is sort of a bit of a blunt instrument, but what I'm hoping by going through 4 very different websites actually is that there'll be some stuff in there that other people can use when you're looking at your own websites. So firstly, and I'm going to explain the picture. So for the backgrounds that I tend to use, my PowerPoint presentations tend to be a couple of words, maybe just a picture. And so I wanted to look at, before we get going, we're talking basics, we're talking foundation. And so when I Google searched or used the image thing for foundation, it came up with this. And I looked and I thought, I don't understand. I'm presuming it's makeup foundation. I don't know, the lighting in here is not great. I don't wear an awful lot of it. Anyway, it amused me, so I thought we'd start with that, something a little bit more playful. So the foundations, before we get started, you'll remember that there were these sort of 3 questions in particular that I encourage you to think about. What's your website there for? What's it about? Is it lead generation? Is it about sales? Those kinds of things. So make sure you understand why it's there so that you can rank it accordingly. We're also looking at who you're targeting. Your audience is absolutely key, and it can make a huge difference in terms of your style, your tone of voice, the content that you provide, even small changes in who you think might be coming. So you'll remember, of course, as part of the foray, we built some personas, and with reference to Helen Hart's Chem Side Tutor, we'll have a look at the impact that might have. And then have you defined your brand style? This is your tone of voice, your imagery style, all of those kinds of things, so that you know that you're consistent and representing your brand in the way that you want it to be represented. As a layer on top of these foundations, we've also got some design principles that were sort of overarching. Why? What's the website for? Make sure that at the heart of everything you do, you're putting it in there deliberately and consciously. The website is obviously, or your website, the internet is an amazing resource in that you can have as much content as you want and all of that's fine. So I'm not talking about trimming content down, but just being clear that it's there for a particular reason. Keeping things as simple as possible and consistency, and your communications hierarchy, the order in which you'll want to tell important stuff at the top, less important stuff at the bottom, and try not to interrupt the journey as we go from sort of attention right the way through to action. SEO is a false idol. As we've done that, so D has popped up to my screen. And so D, I'm looking for you to be my conscience, if you may, in that if I use jargon, which apparently I tend to do, please shout at me. I respond well to authority.
Good to hear.
That's a lifetime spent in corporates. Me and my TLAs, 3-letter acronym, just in case it was a dad joke. Right, so we can move on swiftly. And the final thing is that you're representing a brand like constantly and continuously. So making sure that what you're doing is what you would want on your shop front or your magazine. So they were sort of the real basics of what it is your website's there for and things to bear in mind when you're reviewing. We also talked about the 4A method, which was not just a reason to use ninjas in a presentation, but it was a burning reason. Part of that 4A method, the 4As. So we're just doing these small incursions into website review, not a holistic, we're going to bin everything and start again. What you have is probably good enough as a basis. More likely than not, you'll just want some tweaks. So think about some specific issues based on your audience. Remember, we built personas. An assessment of a particular situation. What does your persona want to do today? Analysis of that journey. So when they land on the website, whether it's from a Google search or a Facebook ad or a link from an email, what steps do they then take in order to fulfill their action? And being really, really clear with yourself and holding that persona dear to you as you're walking through the website will really help to identify those areas that you can tweak and that you can focus on. The appraisal then is looking at, of those things that you've listed, what stuff can you do easily? What stuff is more important to your user than not? And that'll help you to prioritize, because you can't do everything. You won't get your website perfect. And if you're striving for perfection in this, it's a fool's errand. You just want to make sure you're making progress the whole time. So they were our 4As. So as I continue hurtling through the presentation, that was broadly where we got up to, I think, at the end of the last session. Laura's nodding, which is encouraging. What we then started to do was look at a website in particular. Now, Helen, who I don't think is with us on the call this time, just having a quick look. But I've had a chat with Helen afterwards about the comments that I made, and actually her daughter this morning, who is rebuilding the website, or has been rebuilding the website. So I'm hoping again that Helen's comfortable with the fact that I'm going to look at this website before we move on to some of the others. And the reason I want to do this is because I'd actually had to go at rebuilding according to a couple of personas. And so it just seemed to make sense to me that actually the representation of the brand and the audience can really be seen in the way that we do this. So what I did when looking at Helen's website, and as I say, from my background in working a lot with websites and user experience, customer-centered design, all of these kinds of nerdy things, was to hold my persona. But what we then did was sort of look at broadly the website and look at some of the issues that might come up. Was this, I don't think did I talk about this last week? Did we see this slide? I don't think so. So looking at Helen's website, there were a couple of things that really stood out to me. The first was that the URL, that's the domain name, wasn't her name, wasn't the name of her tutor. It was off of jensphotographiccart.co.uk/. And if you're a professional organization, then I would really encourage you to have your own domain. And actually, I would definitely get you to question why you've made any decision that wasn't to use your own domain as your website. The banner there at the top, as you can see, says Wix. Again, all of this for me undermines the professionalism and sort of the seriousness. And I think it raises a question. It's not to say that Helen isn't, but it's why would you want your audience to even potentially ask the question? Let's keep everything simple so that we don't sort of introduce these little road bumps, perhaps. The ChemSci Tutor here, the legibility issue, the logo actually here, if you hover over it, says potential logo. So there are a couple of sort of housekeeping-y bits that revert back to those design principles that I think probably could be worked on. So having established that actually there is probably some stuff and sort of getting a good feel for Helen's website, ChemSci Teacher, I created my first persona. And this persona was imagining that Helen's audience was predominantly students, like Annie Ambitious, rather. So Annie Ambitious, as you remember, is a student. She's bright and capable, but she's conscious that she needs to up her grades, probably knows that she needs a bit of a nudge. I've rattled through that. But again, I can't overstate how important it is that you have a persona that you can relate to, that you can call by name, Annie, and that you believe in. This has to represent your audience. And the more you can get behind that, the much more thorough and more valuable your output is going to be. So Annie Ambitious, I had a real sense of who Annie was, and then came up with a design based on that. Now, this is going to be relatively interesting because what I'm hoping to do is move from here. So this is just a screenshot, obviously, of the website that I've done here. So I'm hoping that if I do this, can you now see the ChemSci? Look at that. Well, I promised you I was nerdy. That the wonders of the technology. So this is Helen's existing website, which, as I say, is actually currently being worked on. What I did, having thought about Annie Ambitious, was come up with a new design. So this new design, you'll see as a marked contrast. Actually, a lot of the content is Helen's content. It's just reordered. I've been thinking about that navigation. When Annie lands on the website, what does she want to see? She wants to sort of feel that this is a website for her. So we have youthful, happy person on screen. You can use less stock type photos depending on your brand image. Something that's much more lighter, much more open. Got an actual logo, the catalyst for success. You can use that if you get there quickly, chemistry teachers out there. And also up here, I don't know if you can see that, the icon and the favicon in the bar. So it's just that consistency. And these things aren't particularly difficult to do, but actually the impact that sort of turning the dial has is quite large. Start here. Annie is in no doubt where she needs to start, from confusion to combustion. So it's an attention-grabbing headline. I mean, this hero, don't let science hold you back with my dedicated tutoring program, blah, 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 blah. Instantly, we've started with a need. I am confused, something attention-grabbing, into the solution. I can help you with my dedicated program. Click, start here. So an action that doesn't actually just say click, it's a direction as well. So something much more meaningful. Should Annie stray beyond the fold, which you may remember was that bit that we get to see before we navigate. Key points. Don't make our user, Annie doesn't have to work too hard here. She can see it's personal, it's online, and covers all the bases. Here we've got Helen. Apologies for the quality of the picture, but I was just working with sort of just scraping stuff off the website. You may remember from the original website that Helen here is actually in a pub, so I guessed correctly. Websites and the interiors of pubs seem to be my superpower. So I've isolated that because that makes a great friend, but again, that sort of, you don't want to raise any questions like professionalism. Content here, really attention-grabbing headline, work down. In here, I've introduced the idea that Helen might offer a download. She's got all of this experience. She can give something away. The reason for giving something away is because I imagined that Helen's website might be used as a sort of a lead magnet, a generation tool, in which case you need to know who's been to your website. So offering something for free is a great way of doing that. You can build your subscriber list and start mailing them out to them. Qualified tutor certified, because we want those supports, and because obviously love qualified tutor. And so why wouldn't you want to display those kinds of things on your website? Again, reasons to believe, supports for everything that's gone through. these 5-star reviews are great, and actually something that everyone does really, really well, I think, across all the sites that I reviewed, because this is like people like me. So in particular, if it was Annie Ambitious, we want to see some tutors, some peer reviews. And if it were Henry, then we might want some more parent-oriented ones. Get in touch to find out more. And then you can navigate through. This is a really simple site. We're not clogging it up with content. We want to make it absolutely crystal clear. And you can come here, click, move through. And that's it. As simple as that. Moving back through, let's see how well that's going to work. Excellent. So that's that. Now, an alternative might have been that actually Annie Ambitious was not Helen's key audience, that maybe Helen was actually talking to pushy dads and other parents. In which case, we've got this alternative persona, Henry High Expectations. So Henry obviously is the parent and is looking for his child to do as well as possible at school. Now that gives us a different flavor, gives us a different reason. Helen hasn't changed. Helen is still Helen, providing exactly the same excellent and exemplary service that she would provide to Annie, but the way it presented, you can see that Henry wouldn't necessarily react in the same way to something that was open and bubbly and friendly and confusion to combustion, and that kind of thing might not work so well. So what I've looked at for him, oh, hang on, where's that gone? Now, why can't I get to it's all firing up now here. So exactly the same website, working off of a URL, .co.uk rather than hanging off an existing URL. Different logo for the purpose of this, something much more professional seeming. There's a feel to here of private schooling. Colors are richer, regal, golds and blues. This is everything that Henry would be looking for. It smacks reassurance before he's even read anything. We don't have the happy-go-lucky from confusion to combustion. Online tutoring for an excellent result. There's no confusion here. This is all about what it is that Henry wants to get out of this website. Contact us now. Above the line, get straight into what this is all about, because Helen doesn't have an online booking system. Meeting potential. Dr. Helen Hart, actually, so Helen missed out the doctor from her title. I'd suggest it's an important support. All of these things just sort of leap out. This might be a bit too busy, but what we can see are, without reading the text, because people tend not to, some of these key supports that Henry's going to be interested in. 20 plus years, 500 plus happy students, all exam boards covered. So all of the kinds of things that might be raised are being dealt with. This time we've got a slightly different background, more than just the grades, areas of expertise, talk about the process, because Henry is much more regimented, and so we're dealing with that way. Again, this is still very much the same content, the 5-star reviews and contact form. The style is very different. The content is actually very similar. But because our audiences that we're considering are different, the presentation is going to be edged in a slightly different way. And that was really the whole point of showing you that, was that actually there's a huge difference that you can get just by knowing who it is that you're talking to, what their motivations are, what questions they're likely to be asking of you, of your website, that will change quite dramatically, perhaps, the way in which you're responding to that through the website. So I'm hoping all of that makes sense, and that sort of illustrated that audience first approach has a huge impact. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to have a look at your websites. So we've got 4 websites to look at. Now, I'm conscious in doing this that it always sounds like it's very critical, and that's because when we look at something to change, we tend not to dwell on the really good stuff, because obviously we're looking to change, and it's easy to find fault than not. So I don't want this to look like it's a really negative thing. Also, please bear in mind, I am not selling you anything. I will not rebuild your website, no matter how much you pay me. Actually, that last bit may not be true. Broadly speaking, you would not want to pay me enough to rebuild your website. In the spirit of not looking like I'm holding you out to dry, I'm going to actually rip apart my own first. So this is the Study Buddy website. Now, I could give you a couple of excuses to start with, but I'm not going to. Just going to have a look at it. So my audience are parents buying for their children, typically in the approach to GCSE. That changes a little bit over time, but broadly that's it. I'm looking for UK-based parents with a child that is typically revision resistant, but also at the other end of the spectrum, we do have overzealous. So look at the website. It's nice and clean. I like that. Striking images, great headline, goodbye revision headaches. Give your team the tools they need to manage their revision effectively. So immediately the customers know what it is that they're here. The vast majority of our audience comes from Facebook, so they've already had a teaser about what it's about before they get here. Knowing that part of the journey is actually important for you. If you don't have analytics, I would encourage you to get some and ask some questions. And then we go down. So it's a nice clean site on the face of it. This bit here pops up because again of that lead generation, not upfront. So cynically, I guess, I don't want to have to give away discounts if I don't have to. But at the same time, I'm aware that actually people will genuinely and generally expect something. So if they scroll down to the page, there's like a little reward, like an Easter egg. If they get down to a certain point, the system will pop up this alert. So I capture their email address, they get offered a code, then they typically buy. So all looks very nice. However, what's this bit doing here? It's sort of there for no reason. It feels like it's a bit SEO, and it doesn't really fit in keeping as part of a hierarchy of communication. It's a strap line that shouldn't be leading. Really uber critically of myself from a nerdy point of view. We're not quite sure why they're not aligned properly. I think there might be spaces in there. That's a definite detail point that I'm going to get to more than anything else. More than a timetable is an interesting headline. It works as well as part of a conversation. I tell them what they've got. When they say, isn't this just a timetable? And you go, no, it's more than just a timetable. But I'm now introducing a problem that they may not have thought of in the first place. I'm telling them it's more than just a timetable. Is that to suggest that they should be thinking it was only a timetable in the first place? So my hierarchy of communication ought to be about introducing the concept first and then rebutting any issues that might come later, rather than leading with the anti-negative, if you like. Too much spaces in here. Who knows what's going on in that area, and so on. So this is actually built like this. Well, to be honest, I'm just happy it's up and running because my entire server crashed last week. So I rebuilt a lot, including all of the customer records. So it being there is my positive, which I'm going to take out of this, glass half full, but there is definitely work to do. I haven't got the time to do all of it myself. And so I will be going through and making those lists. In fact, it was all I could do not to make the changes last night when I committed to doing a self-review. So changes that can be made. What we're going to do now, so that's like we're all in this together, Laura, and I say that as I'm about to move on to your website. So Laura does maths. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through. I have got, I don't know if you can see this if I'm on little screens. So I've got proper old school notes that I'm just going to run through and work my way through, and then we'll have a sort of a review at the end of everything collectively. So the overall impression that I got from Laura Does Maths is that actually there's a great amount of content. You get a really reassuring feel to the website. It feels friendly and feels youthful, and I think you get that from the font, you get that from the light colors, the sort of the emoji style representation of Laura leads that youthfulness. So Laura, I'm suspecting, is not actually talking to the parents so much as trying to win over the students. If Laura is trying to win over the students, then Laura, you might want to consider some of that tone. So yeah, loads of stuff in here that's great. Love this imagery. You absolutely get a sense that there is a lot of content going on here, and that in itself is reassuring. The images here are great because it does give you focal points and gives you a point of reference. And as I say, we can easily see our way through. So opportunities. I can see, I don't know if you can, I can see Laura as she's like, okay, come on then, let's do this. So all of this is going to, because we're concentrating in 1 second. Ordinarily, when we do this as an agency, if you excuse the vernacular, we'd call this a shit sandwich. So I'll lead with the nice stuff. Here's the nice stuff. So in an agency sense, go, wow, haven't you styled your hair nicely today? Everything you've done is dreadful. And then we'd end with something positive, but I really like the coffee and biscuits that you served. So that would be how we tend to work with agencies or giving feedback. This isn't that. So loads of positives: friendly, open, great content, reassuring, and all of that. So there are some things though, Laura, and I know that you're aware of it because you said that before, that you've got great stuff. These professional secondary school teachers, like real reinforcement, real creds coming through here. However, from a housekeeping point of view, technically, there are some things that I would encourage you to look at. These blocks here, they're great. The images help you to make sure everything stays in the way you want it exactly. The problem is, I don't know if you can see the fact that I'm dragging that. Because it's an image, none of this is useful to a screen reader. So you've got a real accessibility issue, and also to Google. So I stand by my comment that SEO is a false god. Do not write stuff for Google. However, remember that Google is reading it as if they were a user. So you want to make sure that Google knows what it is you're about so that they can provide you. So if I were looking for Laura Maths Tutor, Laura Does Maths should come up relatively high because of all the great content that you've got. Your text structure is holding you back from doing that, I would suggest. Being really nerdy, I think your website's built on WordPress using Elementor, which is great and fantastic. What it does also mean, really good news, is that some of this can be changed relatively quickly. Prioritize according to a foray through what you think needs to be done first. So yeah, absolutely. The tags aren't descriptive either on these images. So you have an alt tag, which is an alternative tag. So if an image doesn't display, or if you're using a screen reader, then these alt tags, if you can see as I hover over that, it says 6. Yep, that's the alt tag. Really, you would want that alt tag to be more descriptive. It should read a course for building confidence in IGCSE maths available to everyone, or something of that nature. If your image is there for purely decorative purposes, ignore the alt tags. You don't need to announce what it is if it's not there. But 6 is, all that kind of thing, is a default from WordPress because that was the name of the image that you put into WordPress. So you can just change that relatively simply. As I say, there's some fantastic content in here. Absolutely love is what I've actually written there. I don't know if you can see that. Love. There are 3 loves, and I'm not one to repeat myself unnecessarily. The development of content around propositions. So you've got IGCSE past papers, support for your GCSE. There is no doubt as to what it is that you're offering, and that simplicity is fantastic. You can feel the however coming. However, actually, you've got so much content, it's so easy to get lost. And I think some of that is lost in your navigation. So as I were taking Annie, for example, or a variation of Annie through the website, I would find stuff and get lost quite quickly. And it can become quite intimidating as well. And you've got some great language in here, but if you take the time to actually read it, there's reassurance, there's empathy, amazing stuff, but not a lot of people are actually going to take the time to read it. And you've got these images which are arresting, and actually Helen looks like she's enjoying herself, but for me, there was a bit of a cold sweat. Oh, look at that. Oh my God, that's amazing. Helen's having fireworks. A moment of lapse of concentration. But yeah, for me, I wasn't sure what they're about. I'm trying to figure. It's examples of the fact that you can do like good maths, yes. But its role, its purpose, wasn't clear to me. And I think that if it's a distraction, why? So again, be deliberate about what it is that you're putting in there. Easy to get lost. You've also got some stuff in here from a housekeeping point of view that doesn't exist. So website under construction. This side of the 90s, early 2000s. No, Laura. If it's something that needs to be put in there, write the content and get it in there. If it is genuinely like, I'm going to do this later, take it out. In WordPress, again, really easy just to make that a draft and get it out. So I would, final thing just to think about here, your form. There's a lot of words going on in the form. People are easily intimidated by stuff. I mean, great images. It's a fantastic open layout. But I mean, there's a lot of content in here that I have to fill in. People are inherently lazy and typically cynical as well. Why do you want all this data? So I would ask you to consider what you need to ask in order to be able to answer. If you think that the more steps you put in, the more that the user has to do, the less likely they are to complete, or the more likely they are to bail, trim it down. So get them from interest to contact really quickly. What's your name? What's your subject? What exam year, perhaps? What's the inquiry? Get it out. Oh, finally, and I'm going to end. This actually does feel like that. I'm going to end on a high. Now, where did I find them? You've got your testimonials. There we are. So definitely trimmer. Love this. Absolutely love this. Because I started my life in my first job was in PR. So I am cynical about everything broadly written, public relations. So we just used to create stuff and make it up because that's what public relations is all about. This is amazing. I absolutely love the fact that you've taken images of how the reviews were given to you as a support. You could easily make these up. But I just get that sense that it's spot on. So I'm going to be appropriating this and using it on the website. It's exactly the kind of thing that I've been looking for me. How can I validate that I'm not just making up cautious when Colchester says? How do I do that? This is I think how you do it. Love it. Although it does come with the problem, of course, that the content is in an image and not readable. And your alt tag say screenshot. So aside from that, I feel like I've taken away. Aside from that, actually, I think as a mechanism, it works really well. So that was Laura's.
Thank you so much.
No problem at all. So loads and loads of positives. I hope it may feel like it was a bit buried because I led with those. Great content, great persona, a great personality that comes through the website, all of those kinds of things. But I think a sense of direction, taking your persona through the journeys and by hand holding them, I think would benefit you no end at all. Now we've got tuition, but I don't think Matthew's on the call, is he? In which case, conscious of time and that someone is going to tell me off, I'm sure, if I even consider running over, I'm going to move straight on to Daisy's and the wellbeing tutor, if I may. It's not that side by this. So what I love about wellbeing tutor is you're called the wellbeing tutor, and I think it's a really interesting proposition that drives home straight away. And people are coming to you for a very clear reason. And you get that. And you get that from the website. I think that nice open style and the design, the holistic support you're leading with. It's all of those kinds of things I think really does sort of cement that, that bit. I'm presuming that some of the language is in the language of your audience. So home education kids. I'm a middle-aged, middle-class man. I say kids and I sound like I'm being ironic. But I'm presuming it's part of your audience to talk like that, in which case that's great because they want to feel like it's for them. I would say, as again, the site's lovely and clean. You can see you've just started it. There's some real aesthetic potential in here, I think. I feel like I've just gone on to Great British Menu. Are you happy with the level of seasoning in there? There's some really great potential, I think. Having said that, I'm not 100% sure about the font choice. Up here could really be a personal thing. What I would suggest in any case is that your spacing isn't enough. in any case. So when you look at this on a
My
mobile, it can all start to get a bit.
spacing is fine, but it seems to be
Frustrating.
different screen readers, so I'll look into that.
Okay, yep. Yeah, so again, it depends on how you're really, really nerdily, depends on how your font's being served. If it's being called as a Google font, then it should all be fine. If it's embedded, it might be somehow different. I'm not sure. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it needs to be Georgia or Noto Sans, or it doesn't need to be from a set that we all agree is okay. It can absolutely be different. I'd say it was sort of that lining up visually and how it worked. I would say that your layout feels like there could be a missed opportunity for something really arresting. Typically what we'd think about in a website, and again, you don't need to follow these rules, but we'd have like hero. So something absolutely up front that shouts what this is about, that gets you in. And I think holistic support for home education kids could do that. I'd then probably be looking for something a bit snappier, and then your call to action, so that I don't feel that I need to go through the content in order to get to my next step if I'm already there. Yeah, something that would really draw the audience in. I would be careful about some of your wording. And so having been drawn in by a wellbeing tutor, and absolutely 100% into that idea that that's what I need for my child, we then have some conflicts, I think, in some of the language. So we talk about I'm here to help your child to pass your exams. We talk about let me tell you, I did see this down here. So it's not only about passing exams, I'm enabling your child to pass exams. So some, I think it feels like you've written it at different stages and thought these are the right messages, because they are, but it's just that flow to make sure that it doesn't sound like you're giving and taking in one go. Love the call to actions. Chat with us is a fantastic thing to have down here, really shows support. Even if you're not there, a great way of lead gen, and sort of capturing that information for later. And also it allows the parent to do it on their own time. I'm never ceasingly amazed by how many people buy our sets at 2 in the morning or 5 in the morning, either not being able to sleep through panic or waking up in a cold sweat, I imagine. So being able to feel that they can do that is great. I would also be conscious about keeping things simple. So we've got holistic support. We've got through academic course related teaching, and now I've got the tutor coach approach. So there's an awful lot of stuff happening that feels snappy and sort of, if you're in the know, I guess you know. But to me as a parent, I wasn't sure where this was all going, and is that somehow different to well-being, different to holistic, and so on. So again, just watch the language. Absolutely love these coming up so close, the reviews, because it is your reason to believe. How do I know that Daisy is going to really support my child? Well, because look, Anna, a parent, has told me, Anton, a student, has told me, Sarah, a student, and so on. And I absolutely love that simplicity of hitting you with it straight away. A note here, I know actually I think also it's something for Laura as well, is to think about that mobile responsiveness. So when we look at this on a device, I can't do it on here because actually, again, like tapping into my nerd, Daisy's website is adaptive. Is responsive rather than adaptive. That is to say, if I open up this website on my mobile phone, it looks different than if I look at it on the screen here. If I change the resolution, the width of the screen here, it doesn't change it. So I can't adequately show you. It goes down nicely.
Yeah, don't work on there. I'm trying to work out why and how to fix it, but
the buttons, the arrowheads sit behind the text, and they sit behind the text. So on the website, they appear sort of here and here, which may not be a problem because you could use this, and presumably on the mobile you can swipe. But I'm a man of a certain age, and I don't immediately think of gesturing on a phone. I'm mouse oriented. From a design point of view, actually, I create on a laptop or desktop, as many of you will do, but I would imagine that getting on for 2/3 or more of your website visitors are going to be mobile. So designing for mobile first approach is absolutely what we should be doing. So yeah, love the reviews. As we're working through, love the picture, blurred background. You could be in a pub there, Daisy, I will never know. having met you, I think you might be enough, but we would never know from that picture. I would question her here, as a PGCE certified teacher with 2 years experience, I don't know whether that undermines. I don't know whether 2 years experience is something where people would go, oh, 2 years experience, great, or thinking, oh, only 2 years experience. If it doesn't support you, if it potentially raises a flag, I would remove it, unless you feel that you need to be upfront about it. Learn more, and then social links. Your social links here are interrupting the journey that you want. You don't want them to go to Instagram. You want them to go to Instagram and follow you as a last resort. Keep them where you can control them and you can see where they're going. Love this, the plans, the idea and the potential of this. So as a customer, as a potential customer prospect, I can see really clearly what it is that you're doing. Oh, you do groups, that's great. Unfortunately, that now might become my Laura moment. This is great, however, I don't really understand what 1.5 groups a week is. And so I think maybe, and again, it's that kind of thing where in our own head, we go like, well, of course I know what that means. I wrote it. It was made perfect sense.
It means 90 minutes, but I didn't write 90 minutes. And now I'm like, I should write 90.
1.5 hours. Got it. Yeah. So again, by taking your persona through or getting someone else to take a persona through for you, they sort of leap out at you in the end. You go like, what does that mean? Weekly. So just make sure that if you're offering clarity as you are, that it is clear. Love that, love that, love that. And then the subscribing for updates as well as the lead generation. Down here we've got your certified and your tutor association. So all of that's lovely. Call to actions are great, but I would encourage you to think of some different actions. So remember, start here. More about the tutor approach is great. More about my approach and what I mean by well-being. All of those kinds of things are great. And then find, again, I mean, it means nothing, but I spotted it. Your URL for contact is contact for rather than just contact. Love this. And I stumbled across this by mistake. Yeah, I'm not sure. Stumbled across this by mistake. Discovery call. What a fantastic idea. The problem with that being I stumbled across it by mistake. The beauty of that discovery call bit, if you think this is right for you, we can spend 15 minutes at no cost. That kind of thing should be on your homepage, should be higher up, should be something that everyone else wants to copy and mimic, because I think I will be. I think it's a great idea. But make it visible. Don't feel like you're hiding the crown jewels in there, and certainly under the contact. So yeah, lovely. I think loads of potential in that one. And definitely I feel like you've got a real opportunity to explore your unique proposition, unique from what I've seen, tutoring with heart, that kind of idea. But I think there's a balance that you need to finally strike between the well-being proposition and English academic, that I'm not 100% sure if you've got it, but as I say, create your persona, walk them through your website, see what questions they would ask. Lovely. Next. Oh, it feels like a surgery. And I say that moving on to Dr. Humanities. So Christopher's website. Hello there. So yours is a relatively new website, I think. It looks lovely. We've got the privacy bit, which is always very good. Nice rotating images, great professional studio shots of you, and then a good blend of stock photos, I think, as well coming through. Qualified tutor for a reason to believe. So the overall impression, I think, of your website is strongly professional. It's great, it's clean, and you've got a really good use of that above the fold stuff that you see straight away, and really, really clear about what you do. No one is going to come away from your website, even only having spent a minute, thinking, what does Christopher do? They know it's geography, history, religious studies. However, so all of it looks really, really great. I think there are some opportunities, because otherwise I would just give you a round of applause and congratulate you. So here we've got group and one-to-one tuition, want to excel in your exams. I would question whether or not that order is right. That the more arresting one is, do you want to excel in your exams? If that's your proposition, I'm offering you excellence. I would say that. Do you want to be excellent? Or do you want to excel in your exams? Then your solution is, I can offer group and one-to-one tuition in order for you to. But the arresting bit, as I say, is that. The Dargon just said that. So within the site, again, great content, really well considered and nicely written. The order and the hierarchy I would ask you to consider. So here, this section here, bringing you tuition with a real excellence, feels like a really important support. So why are your audience coming here? Who are they? What have they come here for? If they know that they want humanities support, which is presumably how they got to your website, they're looking to you and now a reason to believe that you're the one for them. And I wonder whether this is a lost opportunity to hit them with this. So simply switching the order of bringing you tuition with real excellence over this is what humanities means, I think is a more important message that I would want my audience to hear. Love the iconography as a way of breaking it up. The 21 years of teaching, again, support. And I don't think you need to hit with important message all the time. So being exam ready at the bit at the bottom, I think is great, because if you've scrolled through the page and you've got there, it's a really great follow through for your user journey. So yeah, homepage I think is a real winner, really strong. But I would, as I say, just consider the order of what's important to get across if you've only got them for a couple of seconds. Once you've got that, I don't know if you can see down here in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see, when you hover over the link, you can see where the page is going to go to. All of these go to the same pages, services. And on the services page, you've got the different subjects. So I'm not sure that this actually is telling me more about history, because it was like a lesson in humanities as opposed to the services that you offer. So it might be that the button here should read my offer in history, or find out how I can help you in history, so that actually there's no confusion when I get to the resultant page. I would also encourage you to encourage your web people to deep link. So they could pop a little anchor here, which is just a bit of code that says what it is, so that when you go from, oh, wrong one, where am I? Here, geography, it would take me to, oh, geography, I'm missing a geography. It would take you to the one that says AQA geography or edXL geography, to book them straight through to that one, as opposed to making me work. We don't want the users to work, because if they do, there's a chance that they might leave us. Love the social links in the footer, because that's exactly the right place. If they've come this far looking for something to do, keep them on your own estate if you can. On your about page, again, love some great content. I wonder whether the bullets are more likely to be consumed than the words, remembering of course that people don't read unless they really have to. So I think these things here, if people have come to this page because I want to support my decision to go with you, then something snappy, something quick, I think is what you're after. If they've got time or inclination, then they can read more. The other thing, actually, that as I was reading the content, and one last thing, it feels like, as is typically the case, loads of love for the homepage. This is your magazine cover, a real opportunity to highlight and signpost your users to go to different places. And then our top level pages tend to be key, services, buy now, about us. And then we tend to lose focus as we go through. And it does look a bit like this with some of yours. I think, oh, I'll come back to this page. That actually there's a sort of a almost lackluster, I think, when you get down to some of those lower level pages, which could easily be remedied unless you don't get the traffic, and then it's not worth the effort. With some analytics looking at that, then that would be great. So this page, I love this page. I love this page because you're looking wistfully in the middle distance, and I don't know what page isn't improved by a photo looking wistfully into middle distance. In particular, though, what I love about this page is your content, because each one of these is a headline that you ought to be using somewhere in the site. as opposed to this sort of section at the end, I would suggest. So if your child is struggling with Asperger's, that's why they're here. Great, that's my attention grabber, that's my hook. Now tell me, Christopher, how you can help me. You're insisting, and maybe not all of them are headline worthy, insisting on full DBS, but the notion that you've got this list of 12 things that actually are why someone should be going to you shouldn't be hidden. Absolutely bring that to the fore. My last thought for you was thinking about those journeys as you're going through. So hoping not to get into sort of a loop of sort of action and linking. So they're trapped, to actually take them into places. So here, for example, I've come to this page, but what I'd be looking for here is a book now button. Something that's the next action you want your user to take. So again, by hand holding, I would suggest for you more Henry high expectations than Annie ambitious. You're thinking, right, now where does Henry go? Henry's sort of a bit stymied. He's going to end up going back to here and then going through. I said that was my final thing, and I lied. There's one more final thing, and that's this, your form. So again, your WordPress based, because we love WordPress. I love WordPress. But your form to get in touch isn't. It's here. You could really, really easily bring this into your website through WooCommerce, and then you keep everything on one track. I don't know how much data you get from this. If you're selling stuff that people can buy, add to a basket, now you've got abandoned cart possibilities. That's incredible. So you've got them on the website. Google Analytics will tell you you've got interest. If I go to purchase and I add to basket, we're now in a funnel. And this is the idea, your website for you as a sales tool, in this case, more people into the top of the funnel, you'll lose them along the way. How do you streamline them to purchase? One of the things people will add to basket, and I'll come back to that. I'll wait and see. I'll put my email address in. I might get a discount code. I certainly do. All of those kinds of things. So if you've got that, keep them on your website for as long as possible, rather than handing off to Google Forms or Jotform or Shopify. Keep everything in your website. I'm aware that I'm running out of time, but I'm also hoping that I'm going to have 5 minutes grace because we started a little bit late.
You absolutely have 5 minutes grace. I think this is an invaluable tool, right, guys?
And I pitched low. 7 minutes grace. Now it seems a little unfair because they're not here, so I'm not going to dwell on a lot of the stuff with the tuition website, and I'll see if I can find it. The design here is beautiful. Great colors, actually makes it stand out because it's not a blue, and actually the eye can take in more shades of green. So great colorways, great palette. I'd suggest, if I was being picky, and I am, the font here could do with being lighter and maybe bigger. Great call to action. Couple of things that I want to call out. One is this content seems like it's been written for Google, not for customers. So in here, I mean, we've got mathematics at its best at the heart of this, more than just mathematics, although we specialize, one growing team of experts, expanding horizon. This doesn't feel like it's oriented for a customer. And the use of mathematics and maths interchangeably is a keyword stuffing. So I'm trying to get the same word in as much as possible, because Google SEO analysts and specialists, in inverted commas, will tell you that's what Google likes. Repeat the same word over and over again. But as humans, we don't like it, so don't do it. Google will catch on. Google is cleverer than a lot of us when it comes to semantics. It knows that mathematics and maths are the same thing. You don't need to reiterate. So focus on content for your customers, not content for anybody else. So forget the robots. And the last thing, and this seems a bit cruel, but test. So once you've created something, certainly if it's functionally, if you've got a contact form, do you know your contact form works? It's as simple as that. Send yourself a message, make sure that you get it. If you reply to the message, does the header swap out so you're replying to the person who sent it and not to yourself? All of those kinds of things. Just test your functions. And this is a case in point. So literally the first thing I did, what do you want to learn? I don't know, that searched, and then unfortunately, it broke. And it didn't break because there's no one teaching iMedia. It broke because of something else. So the techie people need to figure out what's going on here. Because if I click anything now, nothing comes up, and I've got a review filter. So it's all gone sort of spookily wrong, which is a shame, because I think as a sort of an idea, it works well. I saw you on here, Dee. Again, it's that making sure that you've got content. If you're offering content, provide content, and so on. I'm not going to do the rest of the website because, as I said, Matthew's not here. So I think let's just quickly nip through all of those. So, Laura, there's some great highs. Some broad things that we all need to take away is think about structure and sitemap. Look at the opportunities for the homepage to really showcase and signpost. So someone's landed here, multiple audiences, perhaps one particular persona that you're interested in. Where do you want them to go? What do they want to find out about? Get them there quickly. Make sure your imagery is there and it's doing the right thing, and that your technical housekeeping is. I'm really happy to completely geek out and talk to you about alt tags and H1s, but now doesn't seem the right time on the basis there isn't any. Tuition, it's a great look and feel, strong links to support the user, love the use of reviews. The resources is a nice touch, but perhaps a missed opportunity on their website. It doesn't feel to me that it's audience first, though, so I think we need to bear that in mind all the time. We need to make sure we're testing our functionality, reviewing styles, and domain safety net. So the website, and actually it's the same for Laura and for Dr. Humanities, is that if someone, how are they finding you? If they're finding you because they're typing in your URL, or they're coming to you from a link from somewhere, then actually it may not make a big difference for any mistypes on your URL. But if you said, Laura, I'm making something, oh yeah, my child's struggling with maths, and go, oh, I can help you with that. Visit my website, laura-does-maths.co.uk. If I remember, okay, Laura does maths, nice and snappy, beautiful domain, by laura-does-maths.co.uk. You don't need to do anything else with it apart from point it to laura-does-maths. And the same, Christopher, I'd suggest for you, Dr. Humanities, Dr. Humanities. I would also buy Dr. DOCT or humanities.co.uk, just in case there's any confusion when someone types in, then you've got it. Point it to you. The .co.uk are £7 a year. I would suggest that's probably a good investment for those. Wellbeing Tutor, it is what it says. I might look to see if I could buy some of the wellbeing tutors just to be safe. But tuition is a difficult one because obviously it's clever. I don't know why it's tuition. So that story didn't come through, but it's a really difficult one to own. You have to have come here from somewhere else, I would suggest. Great point of differentiation on wellbeing tutor. Loads of aesthetic promise. Ample seasoning, I thought, all the way through. Definite clarity in your packages that for the user that actually, oh, I can get this or I can get this upfront, nice and simple. Great strong calls to action pointed at the same time. Things to watch out for, I think, again, for you, Daisy, but for all of us, is to make sure that our proposition is consistent throughout. If we're owning a thing, well-being, own it. Don't then confuse the message or dilute the message too much if you can avoid it with things like passing your exams and all that nasty stuff. Then using journeys to build out the rest of your site. So rather than thinking about the content that you want to tell people, think about your users. Who are they? Build those personas. Where do they go next? What question are they answering next? Be careful not to let your style run away with you on a whim. And I say that because I noticed as you've started to develop, some of your pictures may have gone out of alignment. You've gone for different. So if you picked an identity, which is great, try as best you can, stick with it. And responsive design absolutely should be at the forefront of what we do. Dr. Humanities, Chris, fantastically professional looking website, clean and clear. You've got some great content, great considered layouts. Again, like a super clear proposition, absolutely no doubt about what it is that you do. And I think that's fantastic. And also your website is groaning at the seams with reasons to believe, and it absolutely comes through. I would encourage you to think about your content in terms of its audience. I think there's a tendency to revert to I, whereas I would encourage you to lead with they. So what the audience is after, rather than what it is that makes you brilliant. Make sure that you've got the calls to actions at the right decision points so that you lead them naturally through to the end phase, and maybe consider that domain safety net. So as we look back, and that's obviously not me, because not only do I have such a well-defined waist, but I'm not that hirsute. The important things to remember: absolutely get those basics nailed down. What is your website for? Who are you talking to? What's the brand identity, tone of voice, that kind of stuff. When you're thinking about your audience, not just what is it you want to tell them, what do you want them to buy, although it's important because we are a service or a product-led organization. What do they want to hear? Because serving their needs is what's going to get them to purchase. Create these personas in a way that you can empathize with them, and then walk them through the journeys, and then do it again, and then do it again and again, and then maybe even get someone else to do it. Daisy and Nora can swap personas and do a trade-off of critical friend type stuff. Because at the end of the day, if we're in this together and want to help each other, then actually it's okay for me to be a little bit more brutal in some of my feedback, because actually I'm genuinely, it comes from a good place, and I hope that you know that. Consistency is the key to design beauty. And the last point to end on is, you're not building this website and changing stuff for it to be perfect and then leave it. It's not going to happen. You don't have that kind of resource at your disposal or time. And if you do, you're in the wrong game. So making sure that you're making incremental changes based on your foray of my audience wants to do this. This was what I saw happen. These are the things I'm going to change. And then prioritize. So you can work through. So Christopher, for example, if you're going to swap those content bits, that's a relatively easy change for someone to make. If you're looking at onboarding your sales journeys, that's a slightly more involved. But you might find that there's more of a win involved in it. So direct your resources accordingly. So although, and I'm going to end there. So although I have picked on, and in some cases I feel like that might actually have been picking on, I hope you don't feel like that, 4 or 5 websites as a bit of a walkthrough. What I'm really hoping is that the diversity in those sites and some of the opportunities is enough that actually all of us can take out of that, oh yeah, I haven't looked like that, I need to think about this, I need to do something different. Certainly I have for my own site, including my complete absence of a Trudy Tutor persona who I will walk through my website, but all of those kinds of things. So there's different bits and pieces that we can take. So as I said, I really hope that's been useful. I'm conscious that I've taken my 5 minutes. I've taken more than that as well. If I'm allowed questions, you're welcome to fire them off. But if you're not allowed to give me questions now, you're very welcome to get in touch with me, Nathan at thestudybuddy.com, or through the community website.
Well, thank you so much, Nathan. I'm sure all of us have countless questions. That was amazing. And to be able to have real life tutors seeing their own websites being fed back on is very nice to see. It's made me want to go to all of my websites and change absolutely everything. I don't know about anyone else in this room. I'm sure we have space for one question, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
Who wants to stand up first? Oh, the ominous silence is deafening,
yeah.
guys.
So-
Oh my
very-
goodness.
Very quickly, Nathan. I don't know if is this working, my audio?
Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear.
it is. Yeah.
It's fine. I'm in a coffee shop, so I'm trying not to be too loud.
Shall I?
Yeah, had to be done today. You said it was great for Laura's images that she had the screenshots of actual reviews, but at the same time that doesn't necessarily work in terms of Google being able to pick up the SEO, whereas Daisy had the slide along does.
Yep.
And I'm fairly sure Georgina's recommended. Is there a jobby that will pull in things like Google reviews and then put them across?
Yeah, yeah. So
Just to try and get the link between the actual reviews and seeing them on the website.
Of course. So for me, Laura's review section is fantastic because it adds immediate authenticity. So you don't need to question, or I'm less likely to question whether or not this review is real, given that I'm cynical. because it looks like it's come in an email. It's ridiculous, obviously, because I've been photoshopping stuff since certificates went digital. So it's easy enough to do, but it is that visual cue that just says it. What I will do to get around the issue you quite rightly point out of Laura's being non-SEOable is an alt tag. And the alt tag there will describe what's in there, so that it's there for screen readers, it's there for Google, and it can find it. So should someone hover over it with a mouse, yes, the text will pop up, but it still does the same. If it doesn't fit in with the theme, there are, depending on the tech that your website is built on, and 90% of us seem to be WordPress or similar, absolutely, there's a widget that will suck in a Google review or a Facebook review. Unless you're only ever getting 5 stars, I would encourage you perhaps to handcraft them. And I say that not because that you're likely to get a bad review you want to hide, but because actually there is now a big business in cleaning up reviews for people who leave false malicious reviews, which means that people are going to be leaving false malicious reviews so that they can charge you to get rid of their own false malicious review. So again, it's a deeply cynical thing. I would probably cherry pick the ones that are most in line with the messages your audience is going to want to hear.
What a fantastic question to end on, Helen. Thank you so much, Nathan. Again, thank you. If any of you guys want to reach out to Nathan, do you mind typing your email address in the chat box for us, just so they can get in touch? I believe it's nathan@thestudybuddy.com.
It is indeed. Although
Hey, I
obviously, if
remembered
you went to
something.
thestudybuddy.co.uk, it would redirect you to the .com.
I'll
I'm going to
want me to
send you
go
that
into
because I'm not
redirect
confident on
another
the route
time.
to the contact. Yeah, there we go.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Georgina. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Magistra. Thank you, Sabina. Thank you, Dee, for when you were with us. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. And I think this is a well worth 13-minute overtime session. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.